Morning again, everyone. And a shout out to everybody who tunes in and watches us online. So it's another new year, 2017. And with every new year, there's always this inherent excitement about the new year because the new year represents a new beginning, a fresh start, a clean slate. And there is an excitement and energy that not just because a new calendar, it marks the beginning of a new calendar, but a new year brings with it the hope and the anticipation of new opportunities, of new blessings, of new achievements, of greater life, greater happiness, new relationships. There are so many new possibilities at the beginning of a new year. And the excitement of the new year and possibilities, has us have this tradition of New Year's resolutions. Setting goals, setting intentions and desires for the new year. How many people made a New Year's resolution, have a goal, a dream, a desire for the new year? Okay. And the amazing thing is, as incredible as resolutions are, is that it's stunning the low percentage of resolutions that actually get achieved. They say after 2 weeks, 50% of the people have forgotten what their resolution was. And after 1 month, only literally 5% of people are still working on it after a month. After a month. Here, let me give you a little chronology of this guy's resolutions over a few years and tell me if any of this might sound familiar. Because somehow it seems like we start fast and fizzle out quick with some of our resolutions. And here's this guy's resolution, starting in 2011. I will get my weight down below 180 pounds. Resolution for 2012. I will watch my calories until I get below 190 pounds. 2013, I will follow my new diet religiously until I get below 200 pounds. 2014, I will try to develop a more realistic attitude about my weight. 2015, I will work out at least 5 days a week. 2016, I will work out at least 3 days a week. 2017, I will drive past a gym at least once a week. And so sometimes we have these resolutions. We start out fast and we fizzle out quick. Somebody once said that New Year's resolutions are things that go in 1 year and out the other. Now, even though we don't always hit our resolutions, the truth is goals and resolutions are a great sign because it means that we want our lives to get better. That whatever our resolutions are, it always moves us towards a greater level of happiness and fulfillment. That we want to achieve something to make a difference in the world. We want to attract a relationship to experience more love. Maybe we want to have more balance in our lives. Maybe we want to get out of debt. Maybe we want to learn something new or be more giving and kind. There are all kinds of wonderful things. And when we begin the new year, the excitement of it, we start doing three things. We start thinking, planning, and doing, and going hard to try and make our lives better. And as amazing as our desire is, and the thinking, planning, and doing is, it's amazing how we don't achieve our goals and our dreams the way we would like. And so the question is, what if there was a better way than just thinking, planning, and doing to bring greater happiness, fulfillment, and achievement in our lives? And what if, instead of thinking, planning, and doing, that the best way to move our lives forward was actually in stopping, being, and listening? Now that doesn't sound very sexy or inspiring, stopping, being, and listening. But I guarantee you that listening is probably one of the most powerful, transformative things that would improve our lives, our relationship, our level of clarity, our level of connection and understanding if we were to practice it more. Somehow in our culture, speaking and writing and thinking are much more highly revered and respected and honored in practice than listening. Somehow listening seems weak or soft. But the truth is, by not listening, we miss out on more than we realize. When we don't listen to our partners or the people in our lives, we miss out on what's sometimes really going on with them or what they're really trying to say. When we don't listen to ourselves, sometimes we aren't even aware of what's hurting in us. Or when we don't listen ourselves, we don't even realize what it is that we really want. Listening is one of the most powerful practices we can do to feel a greater connection, to be more present, to get more insight, more understanding, more clarity, and more inspiration. How important is listening? Jesus actually warned us about the dangers of not listening. In the book of Matthew, it says, you have ears, but you do not listen. You have ears, but you do not hear. And what he is saying is that there's a lot that we miss out by not listening. By not listening, it creates distance, disconnect, judgment, and assumptions between people. And distance and disconnect with ourselves, and distance and disconnect with God. Today we're going to talk about the power of listening and how we can heal and transform our lives. Anybody ever been in a conversation and you were talking to somebody and you could tell they weren't listening to you? Anybody ever had that experience? Anybody ever been in a conversation and was talking to someone and you knew you weren't listening to them? And how many people know that if you were to listen more in either one relationship or all, that it would improve your life in a great way? Anybody realize that? You know, it's powerful stuff. Paul Tillich, the great theologian of the 1930s and 40s, said that the first law of love is to listen. There is nothing more loving for yourself and the people in your life than to take time to be present and just listen. The greatest law is the law of love, and that is the greatest commandment, is to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And the second is to love others as ourselves. And if Tillich is right that the first law of love is to listen, tell me if this makes sense of the greatest commandment if it was read this way. The greatest commandment would be to listen to the Lord thy God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and all your strength. And the second greatest commandment would be to listen to others as we listen to ourselves. The White Stone Ceremony is based on the power and the importance and the value of listening, of tuning in and being present and connecting on a much deeper level than we are normally accustomed to. And it's not just based on the power of listening and tuning in, but it's based on the power of listening and tuning in with the underlying belief and knowledge that God has a higher purpose and plan for our lives than we sometimes allow ourselves to be aware of. That our soul is here to express more greatness than we've allowed ourselves to express. How many people know that there's more talent and genius and beauty in you than you've allowed yourself to express up until now? We all know that. And it isn't a thinking knowing, it is our soul knows it. Our soul knows that we are here to express much more than we've allowed ourselves to express, to create, and to make a greater difference. And yet we haven't allowed ourselves to fully listen to allow it to come forth. So the White Stone Ceremony was actually created by Reverend David Williamson, and I did it for the very first time, actually with David Williamson in Florida 20 years ago. And it's actually based on the book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 17, and I'll read it to you, and you can see it up on the screen as well. And here's what it says. It says, "Let anyone who has an ear listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. To everyone who conquers, I will give some of the hidden manna, and I will give a white stone. And on the white stone is written a new name that no one knows except the one who receives it." So let's look at some of the key words there. Notice the first two sentences begin with the words, "let anyone," and "to everyone." And it's making it very clear that there's no one is excluded from a connection with God. No one is excluded from spirit. We are all connected, created in the image and likeness of God. Everyone has that divine spark in us. So no one is excluded. Everyone has access to the wisdom and guidance of God. And God has a purpose for every one of us. And then it says to anyone and everyone, and there are two things that they have to do. Number one, to anyone who has an ear, listen. To anyone who is willing to quiet themselves, stop running around, and be still, and tune in to spirit. And then the second one is to everyone who will overcome. Not only the willingness to listen and tune in on a deeper level, but anyone who wants to overcome whatever is going on in their lives. To everyone who wants to not be stuck in the conditions or to rise above whatever is going on, to move forward in faith, to open your life to something greater, and to move to the next level of success and greatness in your life, to anyone that is willing to listen and wants to overcome and move forward, they get three things. The first one is you'll get some of the hidden manna. Remember, manna was the daily bread that God gave the children of Israel in the desert when they were coming out of Egypt, the bondage there. And the thing about this bread was it only lasted for a day. Some people tried to hoard the bread for a couple of days, but it actually would go bad every day. And the symbolism there is that God will give you what you need today, and you don't have to worry about all the future days. Anybody sometimes want to know every single step before you take a step forward, move forward towards something? And the truth is, all you need to know is your next step. That when you trust, God will give you what you need today, and have faith in knowing that you'll get what you need tomorrow when you need it. You don't need to have all your ducks in a row or have all the answers already or all mapped out. Just trust God has a plan, and you'll get what you need as you need it. You don't have to worry or stress. You can trust that that is and will take place. The second one is you'll get a white stone. You know, back then in the ancient days, when there was a prisoner was released, to kind of prove that they were free and they'd done their time and they were liberated from their prison, they would get a white stone. And the stone really represented that they were free and they were no longer in prison. And it sounds simple, but the fact is many of us may not be behind bars, but sometimes we feel trapped. Sometimes we feel stuck. Sometimes we feel the conditions of our lives that we can never break through. And it's to feel free in here and in here. The white stone represents an awareness that nothing is holding me back from living a greater life. Nothing is holding me back from moving my life forward and fulfilling my dreams. That there's no excuses, there's no one to blame. That the white stone represents that you are absolutely free. That your life has unlimited possibilities and there's nothing holding you back. So everyone, hold your white stone in your hand for a second and just know that it truly represents that you're free. There's nothing imprisoning you. There's nothing trapping you. I am free. Let's affirm that together. I am free. Just take a deep breath. And just know nothing is holding you back from your good. That you're absolutely unlimited. And the thing is, are you willing to live in that mindset that you're absolutely free? Free to open your life to create any new, great, amazing thing that you want and that God desires for you. So the first thing is you'll get what you need, the hidden manna, when you need it. You are absolutely free. Nothing's holding you back. And then the third one, it says you'll be given a new name. You know, in the Bible, a name actually wasn't just a name. It was actually represented what someone's nature was or their purpose. The name Moses actually means to draw out. Coincidentally, Moses was drawn out of the Nile and raised by Pharaoh's sister. And coincidentally, his purpose was to draw the children of Israel out of Egypt from slavery and bondage. That anytime you saw someone's name change, like from Abram to Abraham, or Sarai to Sarah, or Saul to Paul, it meant it was a shift in the direction of their consciousness and their life purpose. They were called to something new and called to something higher. And while it's a name, it doesn't necessarily just be a name. It could be a word, a phrase, and an intention. You know, it could be that maybe the word could be to serve. Maybe it's to heal. You know, maybe it's to let go. Maybe your word is to stand firm. Maybe your words is to set new boundaries. You know, maybe your word is to inspire. Maybe it's to write. Maybe it's to let go. You know, there are all kinds of different words and possibilities. Maybe it's to rest. Maybe it's to be still. Maybe it's to move forward. I don't know what it is, but I guarantee you there's something in your soul that's calling you, that is urging you to give it life and expression. Anytime we feel discontent in life, it is because at some level we're not paying attention and listening to what our soul is calling us to do. Sometimes we don't want to know because it scares us. Or sometimes we know and we're afraid to do it. And yet that's what we know at a soul level that is ours to do and share with the world. And I love the last line when it says, and no one knows what's written on it except the one who receives it. And that means is no one can know your answer for you. You have to go inside to that secret place and listen to what it is. And you're the one to give it life. You're the one to give it expression. We can't look outside of ourselves for others to help us find our path. They can encourage, but the fact is it must come from within ourselves. And how do we do it? It's by listening. The Bible says 400 times to listen to God, listen to the still small voice. 400 times. You think that's a coincidence? I'm thinking that is exactly what we are meant to do, and that is the path to greater fulfillment. It isn't thinking and running and doing all this stuff. It is stopping, being, and listening. So we're going to do a little activity right now. The only way to get better at listening is to listen, is to practice listening. So we're going to do a little thing, and here's what you're going to do. First, we're going to trust that God has a plan and purpose for your life. Second is we're going to ask and say, God, what is mine to do this year? Who have I come here to be, and what is the quality that I am here to express more of? Then we're just going to relax and listen. Like someone's got a secret for you, we will just listen alertly and enthusiastically and see what Spirit has to say. It may come as a word, it might come as a feeling, it might come as a picture. It'll come in different ways. It may not come in this 2 or 3 minute exercise, but I guarantee you, with your intention and your desire, if you ask the question of what is it mine to do, I guarantee you the answer will come. So everybody, let's prepare ourselves, take a deep breath. And listening's a new thing, so if you feel a little uncomfortable, that's cool, that's normal. Just keep the intention and keep a space open to listen to what your soul is saying. It's trying to speak. Just quiet your mind and set the intention to listen. If your word comes in the moment or your phrase, write it on your stone. If it doesn't, just open a space and know it'll come when it's supposed to. Like when you're driving to work tomorrow or you're doing the laundry on Thursday or whenever it is. So everybody, deep breath. Let's open a space to what the Spirit is calling us to do. So everyone just take a deep breath. Just open your heart to the truth and knowing that something is calling you. That your soul is calling you. God is calling you to something greater. Something deeper, a greater expansion and a greater experience of life. And so just ask the question, God, what is mine to do? What is it you're calling me to give life and to express in a greater way in this new year? With that intention, ask that question and take another deep breath. Trust that God has a plan and purpose and just listen. There's no need to force anything. Just open a space and let it come forth. Even if it feels like nothing's happening, just know you opening a space with an intention to listen and hear what Spirit's saying to you is doing work and will bring forth good now and in the future. So for 1 more minute, take a deep breath, open a space and just listen to your soul. Listen to the still small voice of God. And so we just bring this meditation to a close by just giving thanks if that word and guidance has come to you. Or we just give thanks in advance, knowing that it will come in its right and perfect way. Its right and perfect time. But we just give thanks in knowing that God has a plan and purpose for our lives, that our soul is calling us to expand and to express more of our greatness and the beauty that's been implanted in us from the time we were born. So for the amazing, wonderful life we've had in 2016 and for the great things we know that will happen in 2017, we give thanks to the name and the power of the living Christ Spirit. Amen. You know, something I find amazing, but also not so amazing, is that Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, Thomas Edison, Mozart, Michael Jackson, and Paramahansa Yogananda, every one of them said that the key to inspiration comes from listening. It's not just in rushing out and doing, it is being still and listening. The greatest inspirations, the greatest wisdom, the greatest insight and understanding comes forth from going to that quiet place and letting the wisdom and genius bubble forth. And listening is really the key. Listening will take us deeper into happiness and fulfillment and meaning in our lives. So 3 things for you this year. Number 1 is, who in your life would it behoove you to take more time and patience to be present to and listen? If it's a family member or someone at work, make a commitment to be a better listener. Number 2 is take time to listen to yourself, to find out what's really going on with you. Maybe where you're hurting or what you're needing, and reconnect with who you are and what's going on with you. And the only way to do that is to listen. And then 3rd, just take 5 minutes a day and listen to God. Ask a simple question: God, what is mine to do? What is for my highest and best in this situation? Ask a question and just listen. There's a Cameroonian phrase that says, he who asks the question cannot avoid the answer. Listen to what the Spirit is saying. Spirit is calling us to something greater. It's available and ready for all of us in this new year. The question is, are you willing to listen? God bless you all.